crazy you are to get up at this ungodly hour. Wait a minute, I'm the crazy one, aren't I? I'm Linda Ballantyne, and I was the voice of Sailor Moon. That's what I'm talking about! You may actually notice bruises on my arms. Where are they? All the way down here. Yesterday, I was at the autograph signing, and I pulled a complete and utter Serena. I go to hug somebody or say something to somebody. I went to sit down, and I bumped the chair. The chair fell over backward, but I didn't know. And I fell on my bum, very ungracefully. My legs were in everything like this. And the poor girl that I was signing for didn't know really what to do. She just sort of stood there going... And then I think she handed me something else to sign. And of course, Toby, my knight in shining armor, was absolutely beside himself. He couldn't stop laughing. And I'm lying on the floor going, a little help here. And he's like, just a minute. And he's like, does anybody have a camera here? And I'm like, shut up, Toby, help me out. Yeah, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. Don't worry, he'll get his. He'll get his. I bet you I'd do it again with this, because it is like, they're really, yeah, see, really tippy, these chairs. So if I get up, go, Linda, don't sit down. It wasn't pretty. Anyway, so thank you for coming out, you guys. This is awesome. Are you having a good time so far at this point? This is like I would say, this is right up there with one of the best cons I've ever been to. I can't get over it. It's just amazing. There's so many people. So many things to see. I just went out to the washroom, and like when I came back, I was just sitting there, just people watching, looking at all the Sailor Scouts going by. Sailor Moon, I'm over here. And they look at me like, you're an idiot, lady. Where's your costume? And I do see some lovely Sailor Moons out here right now. Don't think I don't appreciate that. The meatball heads. You know, it's funny with the meatball head. You're never going to believe this, but I was at a convention, I don't know, a few months ago, and somebody had made these really cool little hats you could actually buy. They were these knitted hats, but they looked like Sailor Moon with the meatballs and everything. She said, the hardest part about them was getting the meatballs just right. And I was like, the meatballs just right? Then I went, oh, that's why she's called Meatball Heads. Oh. And then I felt like a meatball head. And I'm sitting there going, I feel like such an idiot. Like, how long did I do this show for? How many episodes? And I didn't even know that that's why. And I said to Toby, oh my God, I just realized that the meatballs and the meatball head are actually the... And he goes, oh. And I'm like, really? And then I said it to Susan Rome, and she was like, oh. And then I said it to Katie Griffin, she went, well, of course. And I'm like, you didn't know that? She goes, but of course. Like, just think about it. I'm like, but you didn't know, did you? So we are all idiots, is what it is. I take full responsibility for being an idiot. So the way I usually do these panels is, I know you guys have a million questions to ask, and I may or may not have an answer. I might just look at you and go, what's my name? It's 10:30 in the morning, huh? So they actually set up a mic. I don't know if you want to come up and say it into the mic, or you want to just put up your hand. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm easy. Easy peasy pudding and pie. So, does anybody have a question? Or should we all just go back to bed for a little while? Well, maybe we should do the lineup. Should we do that? I don't know. Does that make sense? No? Just do it from our chairs? What's that?
The other panel, how they lined up.
Yeah, should we be doing that?
Sure.
All right, let's do that, but maybe we should put that over to the side slightly so that everybody doesn't block your view. Does that make sense? See the way I just did that? I'm making you move. I'm making you work today. Yeah, I am. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh. It's not like I'm using that screen. I'm not using it. My little assistant here, Christina, wrote me this text this morning and said, do you need any materials? And I was like, oh, are you going to be writing me jokes or anything like that today? And so that was my little joke between her. She, of course, meant, do you have anything, any AV stuff or anything like that? Or any handouts? And then when we got onto the elevator, she said, actually, I do have a joke for you. A Sailor Moon joke. And I was like, really? What is it? What do you get when you cross Sailor Moon's cat and a clock?
A lunatic.
A lunatic! Fantastic. Okay, what's your question?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being here, and I met you yesterday.
Yes, you
We gave a
did.
hug, and I loved it.
Why did you pull that chair out from under me is what I'd like to know.
I just wanted to ask, what's your favorite Sailor Moon episode?
Difficult. Very difficult question to ask. To answer, I should say. When we did Sailor Moon, I gotta get rid of my gum. When we did Sailor Moon, we would go in and we never ever got scripts ahead of time. So we would have it up on the wall, we'd have the picture up on the wall, the words would go across, kind of like you would almost do karaoke. And they would just go across and they'd say, okay, Linda, we're starting at number 105. I'd be like, okay. And they'd get it to number 105 and it would be what? So I'd say, what? And they'd say, great, okay, we're moving on to 237. So we didn't really know what was going on. We're watching this thing, sort of. Now, I had a lot more lines, so I got to see a lot more of the show than the other guys did, but we really didn't watch specifically. But I did love when she was drunk and hungover. Yeah, loved that. Loved all the things that she was saying, and I do believe that I threw in a few of my own words in there because it was just like, oh, well, let's put this into, like when she's doing all this souffle, souffle, blah, blah, blah. I love that. I also loved when she was falling with Rini, and she was trying, she's trying to, it was just such a heartfelt moment of, just live, please, and it was just so, it was just so from the heart, and I loved that. So watching back, sometimes people will send me clips and stuff like this. I loved you when you did this, and I was like, oh, I loved me when I did that too. Okay, is that a good enough answer for you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We met yesterday too. I was wanting to know if you weren't Sailor Moon, which Sailor Scout would you choose to be?
Good question. If I wasn't Sailor Moon, I think I would want to be Jupiter. I know. I'm a little bit rough and tumble. I'm not that girly girl thing. I got that whole business with Ray. Although I have to say, I loved how sarcastic and mean Ray was. I loved that. Because she was almost like a little bit of a villain inside of the superhero. So I really did love that too. But definitely I would go for Jupiter. Except I'm the moon, so why would I? God, I wish Susan was here right now. She'd just be like, shut up.
Thank you very much for coming to Boston, ma'am.
Don't even thank me. This is like the greatest thing. Are you kidding me? Especially when I get to hear accents like yours.
Thank you for my accent. Okay, so let's get serious. So I've been thinking for a while. How come, so the reason why Sailor Moon's been eating a lot is because she's burning a lot of calories when she's fighting evil.
She's whatting a lot. What? She's burning a lot of calories?
From fighting evil.
Yes. Yes, and this is very true. And let me just say that as a voice actor, I burned a lot of calories playing her. When you're doing something like Sailor Moon, when you're doing a lot of fight scenes, I would always save them all to the end. It's just like, okay, just all the screaming, all of the fights, let's just put at the end, because I knew that I was going to blow my vocal cords out doing it. And when you're doing it, you just don't go, you're going, and if you do that a couple of times, if they say, sorry, you missed one of the punches, and it's like, okay, and you do it again, and your whole body is tense, and it's almost, it's like doing Pilates, like when you're doing that whole thing and you're just pushing everything. And I'm telling you, I wish I could look back and see what I look back, because I must have been ripped, man. Absolutely. You know what? I'm just going to say I was ripped. I don't even know. I was so hot back then, it's not even funny. Way back then. No, but yeah, it is very tiring. So Sailor Moon may well have lost a lot of calories, but I know that I did too, for sure. But then again, she ate like a pig too.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I hope you don't mind this, but I'm actually going to break the pattern here and actually ask you, what was the inspiration for your radio show?
For my radio show, I have a radio show on Sirius XM called I'm Just Saying. And it's funny. That's a good, very good question. This is like my favorite person right now. So it's a talk show with me and a friend. We get up there, we get somebody on our show each week, and we talk about what they do. They might be somebody very famous, they might be somebody who's not famous at all, but we sort of pick into their brains about what they do. And then we also just talk about other stuff that's happening. And the reason that we wanted to do this radio show was I was listening to radio in Toronto, and all the talk radio there is all for guys. And I was like, you know, you put on the radio, and they're all talking about boobs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, really? Really? And in Canada in particular, it's sort of like almost the only radio that is sort of a little bit more geared towards women is CBC radio, which is, and now we have a plant show. Let's talk about paint drying and how quickly it can dry. And we were out one night, my friend and I, maybe having a glass of wine or 8. And we started talking about it. I was like, you know what I really hate? I hate talk radio right now because there's nothing for women out there. This is stupid. And we started talking about it. We said, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do a radio show. We can do it. We can talk. I can talk. I'll talk for an hour. I'm doing it today. What the heck? So that's what the inspiration was. We just wanted to have something that women could listen to. And it's also for guys, too. Like, it's sort of like, this is really how women talk instead of everything is nice. Everything is lovely. It's like, no, it's not. My kids are evil. They're evil. All the time evil. Good?
Thank you. Yeah. Actually enjoyed the 3 episodes I've downloaded and watched.
I've even got an episode with Susan Roman on it, too.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that one. It was very good.
Yes, it is. I love him.
Thank you.
It's you and me. It's on 167, channel 167 on Sirius XM. But we also have it on our website, which is www.imjustsayinggals.com. So you can download them on there, too. Huh? I love that.
Thank you.
Hi. Oh god, okay, how do you English? So I have a really corny question because, like, you were my childhood. And when I was little, I would just, like, run around my room with, like, a little, like, wand, and I'd be like, crazy power! And stuff, and I would just, like, make her for Halloween. So, could I have a hug?
Yeah! First of all, my head is like this big. But I just feel so full, and I'll go home, and the dishes won't be done. And I'll be like, really? Really? I'm Sailor Moon, and they're like, shut up, Mom. Oh, well, yeah, they love me. They would do my dishes in my house. No, they probably wouldn't, but still. I know, and I'm begging these kids, like, come on, man, give me some of this is also true. My children, who are all teenage daughters, I've got 3 teenage daughters. Yeah. That's why I look like I look. I got bald patches in the back of my head from ripping my hair out. Like, I'm losing my mind right now in life. So I have these 3 daughters, and they never tell people that I was Sailor Moon. That's what I say. I'm like, what's your problem? Come on, you rotten. But they explained it to me. They said, Mom, it just doesn't come up in conversation. Like, you don't just sort of walk into a room with some friends and go, oh, did I tell you my mother was Sailor Moon? That's what I said. So my oldest daughter was one of 20 kids picked in Canada to get to go to Japan. Yeah, she had to write all kinds of essays and stuff like this. Their school was chosen to go on this trip to Japan. They got to see the earthquake, the tsunami region. They got to see how they were rebuilding everything. And it was sort of Japan's way of saying thank you to Canada, for all the help that they had done. So my daughter was one of the ones that was picked. And they had months before they were going. And they divided them up into groups. And they said, okay, your group is going to do food, Japanese food. yours is going to do Japanese language, yours is going to do entertainment. So my daughter's like, I want the entertainment, I want the entertainment. And they were gonna do these presentations for the rest of the kids that were going there, so they would all understand what was happening, what Japan was all about, so they could be prepared. So my daughter said, yes, I know anime. And she does. So she watches a lot of anime, so she was like, okay, I'm gonna do this with my friends, da, 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 da. She walks over to me one day and she goes, Mommy, do you still know anyone that worked on Sailor Moon? Why, yes, dear. Oh, good, who? Well, I know Sailor Moon. She's like, Mom, I'm serious. And I said, so you want to get somebody who worked on Sailor Moon to come in and talk to the group? Yeah. I'm like, I'm Sailor Moon! I'm Sailor Moon! Nothing! This kid was just like, Mom, I'm serious. So she does this presentation, and afterwards I was like, so, did you mention Sailor Moon at all? Yeah, we talked, I said, Sailor Moon was one of the ones, one of the first ones that came over, and I said, did you happen to mention that I was saying, Mom, no. Didn't tell them. So the night before they're leaving to go away, they had this big dinner at the Japanese consulate. It was really cool. I got to go. And I see the teacher that's the one that's in charge of the whole thing. He is also the one that's the head of the anime club and the Japanese club at the school. So he came over to me and said, oh, Madeline's presentation was just great. She did such a great job. Oh, can't get over it, da-da-da-da. Very informative. And I'm like, I've got issues. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, did she mention at all the fact that I was actually the voice of Sailor Moon? And he goes, no. Yeah, I am. He's just like, well, okay. And then he didn't know what to say. He couldn't even talk to me. This is a guy who's talked to me a million times. I know him. I'm just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, buddy. I said, I'll come in. I'll come in and talk to the anime club. I'll come in and talk to the Japanese club. Pick me. Do you know anybody else that was in Sailor Moon? No. So then she goes to Japan, and she's with this one family for a few days, and they're talking about all the different anime and stuff, and, do you ever watch it? It's like, oh, yeah, I love Black Butler, I love this, I love that. She's naming all the ones that she loves. They said, did you ever watch Sailor Moon? And Madeline's like, yes. Oh, did you? Oh, Sailor Moon. Oh, they're going on about Sailor Moon. She finally said, actually, my mother was the North American voice of Sailor Moon. And they're like, She comes home, she said, Mom, I let your little secret out of the bag. Secret. Evil. She's evil, that child. Evil. Question.
Hi, how are you doing? Been a fan for years. I'm a lot older than I look. But my question is, I saw you did some stuff with Cyber Chase. Now, I had to ask, did you ever get a chance to meet Christopher Lloyd? I met him at Comic-Con a year ago. You ever get a chance to meet him?
So I do the voice on Cyber Chase of Wicked, and she's this crazy witch. She is my favorite character that I've ever played, actually. I love that character, but I have never got to meet Christopher Lloyd. He was her love interest in it. I know he was phone patched. They just put him on he's probably in LA somewhere doing it, wherever he lives, and so I never even got to meet him, and he even won an Emmy for it, and I'm like, really, Christopher? You don't want to say thank you to me because I was like your love interest? Come on, I fed you those lines, buddy. But as far as characters go, there is nothing like playing a villain. There's nothing in this world, because villains just think they are so great. They own the world, and always at the end, everything crumbles, and they just can't believe it. They're like, what? How can this be happening? And I love that so much. So the part of Wicked was only supposed to be one episode, and we did the one episode, and she was just so much fun, and they let me do whatever I wanted. So, they might have had just a simple line, and then I just went off on some tangent talking, and whoa, well, hacker, look at you. Better still, look at me. You know what I'm saying? We just go off these. Yeah, so I just loved it. They ended up writing me in. I don't even know how many. I think we've done something like 9 seasons or something. It's been awesome.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that one up.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. It's been like heck getting here, but I'm happy we're here. I'm happy you're here. It's literally like before I even knew what anime was, like I just every morning I'd be sitting like I'd just be like, oh, so everyone, we would like record it on the VHS so I could just rewatch it and rewatch it.
And then somebody would get hold of that tape and they'd tape over and you'd be like, what have you done?
We had
I remember those days.
Private, we had like a little drawer that just had only like VHSs of Sailor Moon, so I could like rewatch them whenever there wasn't on. And to this day, and then every time I go to, but I remember my mom's like, is that from Sailor Moon? I'm like, no, it's actually Inuyasha. Sailor Moon? I'm like, no, it's not from Sailor Moon. But to be here, it's just like so amazing. Like, what do you feel when you get to like, walk around and you see all these cosplayers who are taking the character that you voiced, that you worked with for so long, and taking their interpretation or showing their character? Like, what does it make you feel to see, like, hey, I was a part of, helping that person to like get into this community, or to like get this person to start to want to sew, or to create this thing that started off the square fabric? Like,
It is so mind-blowing you can't even begin to understand. Now, I don't know, some of you I know were here at the panel yesterday talking about it, and I was saying, how last year was the first time that I had done any kind of convention. And I just always assumed that because I was like the 3rd Sailor Moon, that it was just like, to me, Terry is Sailor Moon. That voice is Sailor Moon. And I just go, yes. Oh. And I'm sort of like, nobody wants to see me. Nobody wants to talk to me about this. And when I went to that first convention, and the love that was given, and was just like, oh, no, I'm not Terry. I was not Terry for sure. But I had something else that I gave too. And I made this character, it took me a long time to figure out how to make this character my own. And I would come home literally crying, going, they're just getting me to shout every day. All they're doing is getting me to scream and scream, and that's not what this character should be. And my husband would say, you have to make this your own. And I'd be like, they don't want me, they want Terry. You don't understand. And day after day, I'd come home and I'd be struggling and struggling, and I just felt like they were just getting me to scream everything. And I was so frustrated. And then finally, one day when I went in there, I just went, this is crazy. You know what? I went over to my husband, I said, you know what I have to do? I have to make this my own. And my husband went, really? Yeah, that's a good idea, honey. So I went in there, and that's when I started really finding the humor in it, and really going for more of the goofiness, because that's who she was to me. I was like, this is an idiot teenager. She's constantly crying. She has no control over her hormones, for sure. And believe me when I say I'm living through that right now. So that part of it, and then getting to meet all the people, and people coming over to me and saying, you have no idea the impact you had on my life. I've had people come over to me and say, without Sailor Moon, I wouldn't be here today, because I was in a very, very dark place in my life, and I didn't want to go on. And Sailor Moon was the one thing that I had that I could hold on to and know that there was something out there. And this woman that told me this was weeping, and of course I'm weeping. And then she turns to me and she says, and this is my daughter. And I'm like, and every single time I come to one of these things, I hear another story like that, and it's inspiring and it's amazing. And we didn't know. When we were doing this, we were doing a job. We were going in and screaming our guts out and having a blast. But we really had no idea of the impact. And this is 20 years later. And like I said, we're getting this whole new generation of these little kids that are coming over, and you're like, what? You watch Sailor Moon? They're like, and the mother's behind going, Did I answer your question? I don't even know.
Thank you.
Hi. First thing I have to say is thank you, because you started me and her, and I'm sure a whole bunch of people into what anime is. And I remember when I was very little, and she this one right here in the white hat absolutely loves you, and she brought me here. she's a huge fan. But I was wondering, because, you know, I'm kind of getting on in years, and I'm trying to
Yeah, you look
my
really
anime
old.
convention. Yeah, I'm pretty much a crone, I know. But can I get a photo of you with her and this alpaca, please?
Yes, you can. Should we do it at the end, though? Why don't we do it at the end? Like, we'll save like a little bit of time, then we can just do a whole bunch
I
of
didn't know
photos.
if you were doing photos, so I
Let's
just
do
thought-
it. I don't know what I'm
Thank
doing.
you so much.
I'm not going to let them boss me around. Hello. You look fantastic.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, for me, I remember when I was little, I used to watch Sailor Moon pretty much every morning before school. And it became like the one anime that was my total obsession. And Sailor Moon was like my role model. Like I wanted to be like her. So thank you.
And there you are right now. She did it.
So, I mean, how did you have a lot of fun being like that superhero role model for like so many different people?
I'm telling you, again, it's funny because I slam my kids for not saying anything, but a lot of times I don't say anything about it either. Like, it used to be that people would say to me, so, oh, you're a voice actor, what have you done? I'd be like, oh, well, you know, I did I did Cyber Chase, I did Care Bears, I did this, I did that. When, you know, go through, and the very last thing I'd say, I was also the voice of Sailor Moon. What? But I sort of always looked at it like, well, that's Terry's thing, right? And so it was hard for me to accept. And then one day I really looked at it and I went, hey, I did more episodes than Terry did. Hey, wait a second, I should be giving myself a little bit of credit. Come on, Linda, like, what are you doing here? So, yeah, it is pretty neat. One time I was actually at the exhibition in Toronto. It's, you know, they got all the roller coasters and stuff like this. And we're going on to the ride, and of course my kids abandoned me. They're like, Mom, there's 3 of us here, or there's 5 of us, you're going on your own. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm like, all right, I get on. It's that kite ride, right? It's this big, giant kite, and you lie on the thing like this, and then it sort of takes off, and you just float around. It's like, oh, I love this. And as I'm getting over to this kite ride, the person that's paired up with me, who's probably going, oh, God, I got to get on with this old woman, is this kid, and she's got a Sailor Moon backpack on. And I'm like, so the thing is just, you know, we're just lying there, and we're just ready to take off, and it's just slowly starting to take off. I'm like, hey, you're a Sailor Moon fan? And she's like, yeah. And I said, you know, I was the voice of Sailor Moon. And she goes, I said, stop looking at me like that, meatball head. And she's like, and then we take off, and the entire ride, she doesn't look to me, she doesn't talk to me, she does nothing. And at one point, just to try and thrill her, I go, ah! She's like, and then I'm watching her, right, out of the corner of my eye, and we get off the ride. She goes over to her friends, doesn't say anything. I'm like, come on! You just can't win, you know what I'm saying? Have I answered your question? I keep just going off on tangents. I'm sorry.
That's great. Can I ask something?
Yes! Look at that.
Expo.
She what?
She will at Anime Expo.
I know, she's going to destroy me.
So I actually do have one major question because I just missed out on the first part of your panel because I was doing a Sailor Moon shoot just a moment ago. So my first question was, since the new announcement for the new season, if they asked you to come back, would you definitely do it?
Let me think about that, yes. Yeah, in a heartbeat I would, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to be going with a whole new cast. I know! You know, it's funny, the thing that I find the weirdest about that is Susan Roman's part, because there's only ever been one Jupiter. Even Mars had a couple of episodes where somebody else, Emily Claire Barlow, came in and did her part for just a few episodes. And so for her, it's like, you can't replace Jupes. Come on, man. It'll be interesting to see what it goes like.
It won't be the same without you, though.
There you go. Thanks, best friend. Yeah, Luna, Luna, stupid cat. Of course I will.
Thank you very much. Hello, how are you?
Good.
First of all, I have to tell you, thank you for all the anime you have done. This woman right behind me is my fiance. She is probably one of the biggest Sailor Moon fans I've ever met in my life. And I swear to God, the first time we actually found out you were going to be here, I think she almost fainted. I actually had to be like, honey, you need some water? Are you sure you're okay? All right, we're good, okay. Two questions for you. First one is, when you guys were doing the voice acting for all the shows, did you actually have like a screen up like in front of you showing the animation as you were doing it, or did you just do it as a script?
No, we had no scripts whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, they never ever gave us a script. So we didn't know what the heck was going on. We had no idea if this was going to be a funny episode or what. And what they had is they had this thing called the Rhythmo Band back then. So you would have the screen in front of you, you would see the picture, you'd see the whole cartoon laid out there. Cartoon, how old am I? And then somebody had taken all the time to write on a piece of film, handwritten, all of our lines. And they had to sync up exactly to the mouth flaps. So if the line was, I love you, but she was saying it like, I love you, or something, then they really needed to draw out the word love. They would write the word love really long. And as the words came by the line, I guess it would be one this way for you guys, so it would say, I love you. As soon as it hit the line, the word I, that's when you said that word. And when the word love hit, if it was really long, drawn out, you'd have to go love until that word ended. You.
Oh.
So yeah, so you just sat there. You're basically reading along with a bouncing ball.
Wow.
And a lot of times,
Almost.
oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. You just didn't know. A lot of times you didn't know what was going on. You could tell by what was happening on the picture, but all of a sudden they'd say, okay, we're going over to this scene, and you might have just said, I love you. You might have been with Darian. I'm like, oh, Darian, you're so hot. And then the next scene that they go, okay, Linda, now we're going to go to the next one. It just says scream. And I'm like, oh, maybe Darian said something to make me angry, so I'm like, oh! But meanwhile, if somebody's attacked you and you're like, ah! You just didn't know. And they'd be like, cut, Linda, that was the wrong kind of scream. I'm like, what am I, psychic? Fine. Yeah.
My other question is, any future work coming up at all?
Yes. Right now, I'm working on the new George of the Jungle animated cartoon, and it's awesome. It's really, really funny. And I am this insane scientist whose name is Magnolia. And she's just this, she's very straight and very nice and everything. But then she loses her brain big time. Like, she'll just all of a sudden just start screaming, what is that thing over there? Talking about that, George? Like, she's just crazy. And I love those kind of crazy characters. I also, I'm doing next week, I believe. There's another show called Peg and Cat, and I'm Marie Curry in that. And then there's Lucky Ducks is a film that I've got coming out too, which is another animated one. And I'm a reporter, and I'm very.
I think I saw something about that on Wikipedia. Actually.
Oh, good. I haven't heard anything about it. I was sort of.
Well, I mean, not wanting the release date, but not like any information on it or anything.
Well, it's a very cute little one where all these tub toys go missing in the ocean, and they've got to try and find these lost tub toys. And I'm the very serious reporter who's looking for the tub toys. It's fun, and I'm also a bunch of tub toys in it too.
Can I ask you a hug, please? A hug, please.
Look at this.
You're gonna get hugged all over the place. Oh, yeah, happy. Oh.
We should save the hugs for the end.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say you're like an inspiration to everyone here?
Oh.
My father bought me the first season, like all the seasons since I was a little girl. I watched it every single day. My friend would come over and she would watch it with me. How is it like working with the girls who voiced the other stuff?
It's funny because we didn't get to go in together very often. Towards the end, I got to go in with Sugar, who was Reenie, and oh my God, that girl is hilarious. She's like about this tall in real life. Well, maybe a bit taller than that. Her voice is exactly like Reenie's in real life. And I'd go in there every day going, really? really, you have to wake up with that voice every day? And she's like, yeah, I can't help it. That's just the way I talk. And I'm just like, oh my God, kid. And she always calls me Mom, still to this day. She's like, hi, Mom. I'm like, really? How old are you now? What are you doing here? And she continues to do that. So I'm going to get to actually see her in LA this summer. We're going to be doing a convention there. I know, it's going to be huge. So she's going to be there, but we didn't get to go in. So I would get to go in with her sometimes. If I had a lot of lines with her, I would. I know that sometimes Jupiter and Mars got to go in together a little bit, but not very often. Because the problem is when you go in ensemble, if anybody screws up their lines, you got to wait for them. And there's always, you as a voice actor, you have those days when your tongue doesn't work. And you're just like, I'm sorry. And the more it doesn't work, the more it doesn't work. And you're like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me today. But when you do go in ensemble with people, there's nothing like it. Like, it's fun. You've got something to play off. Getting to hear somebody else doing their voice and watching the way they do it, you learn so much. Like, I learn something every single time I go in a booth with any of these people. But one time, when we did the Care Bears movies, they had all of the Care Bears going together. And they're all little cute voices. They're all these women doing all these little tiny either boy or girl voices. And we're doing them, and I was so confused. All of a sudden, I couldn't remember what my voice sounded like. And you know that your line's coming up, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what my character sounds like anymore. Oh my God. You'd sort of be going off on the side going, hey guys, let's get me, trying to get your voice, and it was very, very confusing. And another time we had to do different accents, and it was, like an Irish accent. Somebody was doing an Irish, somebody was doing an English, and I was doing a Scottish accent. And I just couldn't even find that accent, because I'm listening to these other accents going, what? I can't figure it out. So it's usually really fun, but sometimes very, very confusing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad you got to come. Jupes.
So, at the end, I have a picture of you, but, okay. So, out of any, show or anime that you weren't in, what is your, that you still watch?
What would I want to be in?
No, that you weren't in, that you still watch, and it's still your favorite show.
Oh. Well, my daughter right now is huge on Bob's Burgers. And she's convinced that because she watches it, that I love it too. Actually, I do quite like Bob's Burgers, to be honest with you. And that one always throws me off, because it's all these guys doing all the voices. I'm like, how do they do that? Why are they taking away our work? Anything Seth MacFarlane does, God. Anything Hank Azaria does, God. I love all that kind of stuff. I do love any kind of sarcastic humor, quite frankly. My other daughter, my oldest daughter, the evil one, I can say that. She's almost 18. She can take it, sort of, sometimes. She's Black Butler. So she's always trying to get me to watch Black Butler. What is it, Death Note? Is that one of them too? Susan Roman, Sailor Jupiter, refuses to sign the Death Note books. If you bring one forward and say, will you sign this? She's like, I won't sign that. Come on, Susan, I'll write your name for you. Don't write my name in that book. So if you have one of those, I'll sign Susan Roman's happily. I'm just kidding. She's not here. Usually she's right beside me and she'll hit me or something like that. And I'll go, ow. She can't even defend herself now.
Thank you so much for coming to Anime Boston.
Love it.
I would like to say that Sailor Moon was the first anime I watched, but I was actually watching Run Warriors at the same time.
Wow.
But Sailor Moon when I got into anime, I discovered I had epilepsy.
Oh.
Okay, technically I wasn't supposed to watch it because anime can cause seizures.
So fast.
But I just ignored that.
Good girl.
And Sailor Moon has always been my favorite character. I've always wanted to cosplay as her, and just the fact that you are here and it is the 20th anniversary and the new anime is coming out this year is just incredible.
See, I'm gonna go home, honest to God, with a head like that. I love it.
So I really don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you so much for being here, because
sorry if I've destroyed some of your brain cells as well in the process.
I think that's my dad probably did that when I was a baby, so I think that's okay.
You know, it's funny because we had, when I was at Anime North in Toronto, that was the very first one that I went to, and we had one of the guys stand up and say, he said, he did this whole talk on anime, he's an expert on it. And if I can remember his name right now, you'd all probably go, oh yeah, so-and-so. I think he does all the NASCAR announcing. Anyways, he's amazing. His voice of God, he's amazing. Anyways, he said, the really amazing thing about Sailor Moon was it bridged a gap between two nations that were at war with each other 40 years earlier. And here are these two worlds that really didn't want to really have much to do with each other. And then this show came about, and it was just sort of like, well, wait a second, maybe we kind of do have a little bit in common after all. And it really bridged this huge gap, and it was quite amazing. The way he undid this story, I was like, oh. It was really neat, so I love being part of that. And the best part about being part of it is, I'll always be part of it. Yeah, even if they do have a new cast. Yeah, I'm on VHS, baby. How many people can say that? And incidentally, when I did Sailor Moon, the director came over to me one day and she said, Linda, I have this for you. And she gave me like four grocery bags full of VHS tapes of all of the episodes I had done. And I was like, wow, what the hell am I going to do with these? So they're sitting in my garage still, and every now and then, like, one of the kids will take it out and figure out how to plug in the whole VHS thing, and I'll be like, what are you doing? Just download it. What are you doing? But I have all those, and my husband every now and then says, babe, it's time to purge. Let's get rid of it. But when we were doing that, like when I was going through the garage, I actually found scripts, and I said that they hadn't given me any scripts, but at the very, very, very beginning, she said, just so you know sort of how the storyline goes and stuff like this, I'll give you some of these scripts. And she gave me a pile of these scripts, and it was the direct translation from Japanese to English, and it was like literally the direct, so some of it didn't make sense. Some of it was just like, that doesn't make sense at all. And I found those, and you know, I just, neighborhood kids, I'd be like, oh, you watch Sailor Moon? Here, let me sign this. Here you go, here's a script. They'd be like, oh, thanks. And now I go, I just gave those away to neighborhood little... But I think I have a couple left. So.
Thanks for coming. I've been a Sailor Moon fan for a long time.
Good girl.
It's one of my first animes. What are your favorite Sailor Moon moments?
Sailor Moon moments. Always, always, always love her crying and eating. And my favorite things also were when she'd lose her mind or something like this, when she'd sort of like, and her head would blow up to this size, and her eyes would be like little tiny dots. And that's how I would always know how insane she was getting, was, you know, those tiny dots. So I'd be sitting there going, okay, I'm supposed to be almost screaming right now, oh God, look at her eyes. Oh, this is going to be a huge one. So I loved that part.
And can we shake hands after the panel?
Yes. Yes.
Your autograph session yesterday.
I'm going to be in the dealer's room. I've got posters and postcards, and Toby's going to be there, and John's going to be there. So I think it's going to be around 1 or 1:30. We're just going to be there for, I don't know, probably until about 6, until I can't walk anymore and eat. Yeah, so definitely come by. I think it's number 141 in the dealer's room we're at. Look at you. It is. I'll be there.
Yesterday was my birthday.
141, yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't even know where it is. I was lost a little bit. My husband's actually out there making a banner right now that says, you know, meet the cast of Sailor Moon. Because he's the best husband in the world. Well, he's the only one I got anyway, so.
Being in many ways a hero to a lot of people, what was your childhood hero?
Who was my childhood hero? Oh, that's such a good question. Who was my childhood hero? Geez, you'd think I just have that on the tip of my tongue. Well, it's funny, being a Canadian, you gotta like hockey. Because that's what we do, yeah. Everything's frozen all the time, so all you do is play hockey. And of course, I bleed blue because I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Sorry, Boston. And by the way, thanks for ousting us last year. In the biggest choke fest of the decade. You were at that game? Oh, so I won't be signing or hugging you. Oh my God, watching our goalie, like how do you play net with your two hands around your neck is what I want to play. That was a Sailor Moon. Oh, it was awful. But for me growing up, Guy Lafleur was a hockey player and he played for the Montreal Canadiens, number 10 on the Montreal Canadiens, and I loved him. He had this long hair that sort of, when he would skate, because they didn't have to wear helmets back then, that's how old I am. And I loved Guy Lafleur, and I just, watched him from afar and collected all of his hockey cards and stuff. And then one day, a friend phoned me up and said, hey, Guy Lafleur is like right around the corner signing his book. And I'm like, what? So I went around the corner, and there he was, the man himself. And I'm sitting in this line, I'm going, I'll buy his book. Why not? Just get him to sign it. And as I waited in line, I got more and more shaky. I couldn't move, and I was just like, And finally when I got up there, I had no idea that I was totally fangirling it that much for him. I had no idea that was in me. I handed him the book, and I'm like, you might as well just sign this to your best fan ever, because I'm like your best fan. I've got all your hockey cards, I've got all kinds of, I've got everything, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I even have your record album. And he had put out this record album that was hockey tips set to disco music. And if you knew Guy Lafleur, he's just this French guy, so he's like, the best part about the game of hockey is to shoot the puck. Shoot, da-da-da, shoot. Then you must know how to do the snapshot, do-do-do, snap. And he just, so I'm like, I even have your album, and he just looks at me and goes, my best fan ever. I wish that I had that record with me. I bet you guys are all going, I have all this Sailor Moon stuff at home, I should have brought it. I hope you did bring it, because I love seeing all that old stuff too. It's really neat. Thank you. You're welcome. Don't you wish I had said somebody other than a hockey player? You're going to have to talk at some point.
No, I'm sorry. So I just want to kind of say the cliche thing of I grew up watching you. I would, preschool, I would come home from preschool and I would just throw myself down on the sofa. My mom's like, what are you watching? I'd be like, what do you think I'm watching? And that's all that I would do. So I have a couple of questions and then I'm going to go before I start crying. So my first question is that over the course, I'm assuming that even though you didn't voice every single Sailor Moon episode, that you've seen a good portion of them. Out of all of her attacks, which one do you think is your favorite?
Always like Moon Cosmic Power. Yeah, love that. Love the Boston version of it too, that I did at the opening ceremonies. Moon Cosmic Chowder. Brilliant when I did that. Moon Spiral Heart Attack drove me insane because it kept going and going and going, and it was one of those, again, those long what was it? Moon Spiral Heart. Moon Spiral Heart Attack! And often when I would do that, I just collapse onto the floor. I just like, attack! Just because I'm a little bit dramatic. Just a little bit, and I just do it as a joke, and I'd collapse. And the first time I collapsed onto the floor, the director walks, Linda! And I'm like, all right, fine. After that, she never came in. And I'd be like, collapsed on the floor, and I'd be like, little help here. Could be dying, you don't know that. No, nothing, all right, I'll get up, jeez. Just move on, you're going too slow.
And my second question is that this is a debate that I've always had with my god sister, regardless of how the show came out. Who do you think, if Serena had the chance to go back into time, like when she first became Sailor Moon, who do you think she's better off with, Darian or Andrew?
Darian, hello. He's so hungalicious. It's funny too, when I was doing it, Vince Carrazza was my tuxedo mask in it. And it's funny because I went to theater school with Vince. And when you go to theater school, you know people way too well. Way too well. And Vince was younger than me by quite a bit at theater school, because I went back to school. I had gone to university and went, I don't want to be a tree for the rest of my life, you know, like in an acting school, like that. And then I was acting, and I just didn't have any direction. So I thought, I need to find some kind of direction. I don't know where I want my career to go. And I was working, but I was sort of like, something's missing. So I went back to theater school, and that's when I met Vince. And I was like 26 or 7, and he was like 17, 18. So he was just a punk kid, right? I'm just like, ugh, gross, Vince, ew, you're so young. And he was always naked. And he's got a really hot body. Not that I looked. So for me, Vince, like you know him like you know a brother, right? Here he is, my Darian, and his Darian was nice. I found his Darian to be a lot nicer than Toby's. Toby's was just like, you're an idiot. Like his one, he was always just looking at Serena, just like, oh, meatball head, like what's your problem, you know? And he's just, so there was quite a big difference, but I'd pick Darian any day.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
So my question is, did you always want to be a voice actress? And if not, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Acting I had to do. There wasn't even a question. That was all there was to it. So when I went back to theater school, I knew that obviously people did cartoons and stuff, but I had no idea how you got into it. And when I was at theater school, they give you all kinds of courses. You have to take dance, you have to take vocal lessons, you have to take that. And one of the ones you had to take was voiceover. And I was like, voiceover? Oh, I would love to do that. I could do that. I could do that. I'd love to do that. So when I went into the booth the first time and put those headphones on and had the microphone in front of me, I just felt like I was at home. I got it right away. I just went, this is where I should be. This is so cool. And every now and then they'd bring in a special guest lecturer that would come in and talk to you about whatever that person did in the world of acting. And we had this one woman who came in, and she was a voice actor. And she came in, and immediately I knew that voice. I was like, oh my God, I know that voice. Oh my God, I love that voice so much. Oh my God. And she talked about everything. She talked about what it was to be a voice actor, the difference between a boy voice and a girl voice if you're doing little kids. And I just sat there feverishly writing down everything she said, just drinking in every word she said. I worshipped her. And it turns out, well, it doesn't turn out, that woman was Susan Roman, who was the voice of Sailor Jupiter. So years later, there I am doing Sailor Moon. I'm like, it's Susan Roman. And then having to go into an audition and see Susan Roman sitting right beside you and going, oh my God, I don't stand a chance against this woman. Because she's awesome. So she was definitely a huge inspiration for me. And I love working with her still. She'd be here right now. She'd just be like, oh my God. Oh my God. Now I can't even remember what the question was.
That was the question.
Okay, good. I answered it.
Thank you.
Good. So we've got enough, probably time for you guys' question.
So of course, like everybody else here, Sailor Moon was the first anime I ever watched. It was my favorite thing. But we didn't have it at home, so I used to go to my cousins and watch it repetitively, borrow their VHSs, and just run around. I'd create my own Sailor Scouts and all that fun stuff. And actually, one of our best friends, this is my little brother over here. One of our close friends just had a baby, and they actually named it Darian.
Oh.
He's the cutest little thing, and if they had a little girl, then it's Serena. So he is the cutest little thing. But my question, I just wanted to say that. My question is, were you ever surprised by what happened in the episode when you were just filming, or recording? Were you ever surprised by what came out?
Oh yeah. I'd be watching, right? I'd be voicing it, going blah blah blah, saying my lines, and then I'd get right into it, right? I'd be like, and they'd be like, Linda, that was your line. You just missed it. I'm like, shh, just let me watch the rest. That happened quite often, actually. I would totally like zone out because I was watching the show. One of the perks of doing the show, I suppose, you get to see it right there and then.
Thank you.
Hello, my question is not for the same ones. I thought I'd give you a break from that. I've been watching the Adventures very well, and your character's Wasp, which is very, very good at it. I was wondering, with all the other actors
I was Wasp in the Avengers, Janet Van Dyne, and that was my very, very first animated series ever. My first cartoon I ever did, and incidentally, it was between me and Susan Roman. Yeah, that was that moment where I was like, oh, shit, I've never with Susan Roman. And then I had this little bit of panic going, okay, how would Susan Roman do it? Okay, I should start doing it. And I went, no, Linda, no, just do what you need to do. Make this character yours, not Susan Roman's. And that's what I did. Susan. So that was very nerve-wracking doing that show because I had never done one before. And I didn't know, at that point, I just had to trust that I got the part and that I just had to do whatever it took to do a part. When you're voice acting, you don't just stand there and do the lines and that's all there is to it. Your whole body is completely involved in it. Even when you're just talking, you're still using your mannerisms like you would when you talk. Like when I met J. Michael Tatum, for Black Butler, my daughter loved him. She's like, oh, Mom, I gotta meet J. Michael Tatum. And I was like, yeah, you will, you'll get to meet him. And they kept passing like ships in the night. They never got to see each other. And it was like an entire weekend where she would walk out one door and he'd walk in the other. I would be like, oh, my daughter just walked out. He'd just laugh, going, she's never going to get to meet me. So finally said, give me your phone. Let's call her. Let's call her on her cell phone. So we call her. I'm like, Madeline, I'm sitting here right now with the Black Butler himself, and he wants to say hi. And she's like, what? And I hand over the phone, and all you hear is screaming. And he's like, she's screaming. And so they talked a little bit, and then he, finally, she obviously said, do your line. And he said, I really am one hell of a butler. And I said to him, if I cut off your arms, would you be able to say that line? And he said, nope. Because every single time. And that's how he would deliver all of his lines, the whole time. He had to have his hands like this. Oh, he's so hilarious. So I had to get used to, for the first time, really using my whole body doing that show. What was it? Where was I going with that? I can't even remember where we were going with that question. The Avengers. Anyways, it was great. It was really good. It was really cool being part of it. And not only that, my brother's a huge comic book geek. He's like, oh my God. So I phoned him up. I said, hey, I got a part in a cartoon. He's like, oh, really? What one? And I said, The Avengers. Have you ever... The Avengers? Who are you playing? I said, I think I'm playing the Wasp. He goes, it's Wasp. Not the Wasp. It's Wasp. Thank you. And then, later on, they called me up and said, we want to do an interview for the comic book, and we're going to have pictures of you, and we're going to do this interview. And I'm like, Rob, I'm going to be in a comic book. He bought it. Just saying. Kind of cool. It was very cool doing it, though.
Thank you. For those people who are able to go to this, is it possible to get a quick autograph?
Well, I think we're probably going to wrap up now, and we'll do some pictures and some hugging. And we'll do the odd little autograph. I can't do a lot of them, though. I'll just do some. But like I said, I'm going to be in the dealer's room. You guys can come by for sure. And then you can tell me all your other stories that you wanted to tell me, because I drink it all in. I drink it all. Okay? So thank you so much for coming out.